Professor of Banking and Finance at the University of Hohenheim, Hans-Peter Borkhoff, joins us now. Just how divided would you say it is, opinion, in Britain at the moment?
Well, I think there are few people who still dream of Europe as something where Britain must really join. I think most of them get very realistic and see that Europe is changed in a way which is a bit depressing because, well, it becomes a bit like the British nightmare of what Europe should not be. So we in Germany and Europe as a whole, we should take this signal of the British people very serious because they are very realistic. They see that all the things that should not have happened do happen now, and so maybe they don't want to join this ship now.
Why do you use the word depressing?
Because, I mean, it was a great vision, especially for Germany, after the Second World War, after all these disasters, to have this European Union to come together in prosperity, in peace, in freedom. And now this doesn't work because our institutions don't work, and all the promises we had about how it would function, they're just broken. And that's a sad story.
How has Europe changed? Has it become more social leaning, would you say, in some way?
Yeah, in a way. It's been more socialist in the way that the debt is just distributed evenly. So the people who make debt, they don't pay it. And that's something which simply doesn't work economically. And so in this way, it's become much more socialist.
And that's exactly what's scaring the Britons, is it?
Obviously, it's something they don't think is a good idea. I mean, this is common sense to say this won't function in the long run. It will have strong centrifugal forces in the end. And there's not much future in that.
I suppose banking supervision is then another thing that's scaring them off.
Yeah, of course, because I feel that they say we don't want to get controlled by some central institution. We can't control ourselves. And they might even have some doubt if this is a really good idea because putting the regulator in a further distance from the regulated object doesn't make regulation much better. It just gives you the feeling that you've done everything, but it does not lead to better solutions on the ground.
So how realistic would this be, the UK leaving the EU?
It is pretty realistic. I mean, it was not thought of when we constructed Europe, but in a way, they've been always in and out to some degree, and so some gradual process of separation might take place, and the question is when you just put the line and say now they're out. But obviously they won't leave the European economy. They're still linked to this.
Does the EU need the UK?
In a way, yes, because it just forces market opinions. We get closer to a market economy if we've got the British voice in the European Union. At the moment, we're going far away from this market economy. Another reason why the British say maybe that's not our future.
And what about the comparison to Greece? Everyone's been saying, especially here in Germany, keep Greece, the main politicians at least. What about the UK? They don't seem to be jumping up and down about them.
Well, it's much more important to talk about the UK than about Greece. Let the Greece do what they want to do because it's a separate country. The people have the right to vote and decide about their future. But let's stop paying them for deciding in a certain direction. Nobody's got the idea that we could bribe UK to stay in the European Union, which would be a funny perspective. But it's the same as with Greece. We bribe Greece to stay in. We shouldn't do this, but we should talk more closely with Great Britain about the perspective of being in Europe.
Mr. Borkhoff, thank you very much for the analysis.
It was a pleasure.